Hello, dear students. Welcome to this video class. Here in this class, I am going to discuss about romantic prose. Dear students, we all have discussed about the emergence of romanticism and how it had an impact on the English poetry and what were the characteristics of romantic poetry, and also we had a brief discussion about the contributions of English Romantic poets to the development of English literature. So, here there was not only a development of Romantic poetry in this period, but also there was a bunch of writers who contributed a lot to the development of prose in the Romantic era. Dear students, with the emergence of a new kind of poetry, prose also grew to a certain extent in 18th century. In 18th century, a change had taken place in the prose style. Many 18th century prose writers depended on the assumptions about the suitability of various prose styles. The Romantic prose writers were more concerned with the subject matter and emotional expression. They wrote for an ever increasing audience which was less homogeneous in its interest and education than that of their predecessors. The autobiographical exploitation of personality manifests itself in a great variety of ways among the writers of the late 18th and early 19th centuries. There was an indication of growing distrust of the sharp distinction between matter and manner which was made in the 18th century. In the Romantic period, the tendency was for the writer to draw on his own personality either as illuminating case history or as a gesture of defiance of showmanship or alienation rather than to objectify it in terms of a cause or a system. The growth of familiar essay with its highly personal, often whimsical flaunting of the writer's tastes, prejudices, and idiosyncrasies represents another aspect of the romantic exploitation of personality. Dear students, now let us see the characteristics of romantic prose. What were the important characteristics of romantic prose had? Though the romantic age is considered as the age of poetry, there was significant development in the field of prose also. Many famous novelists, essayists emerged and contributed greatly to the prose in this period. Romantic prose is not based on love stories, though some of the novels do have romantic elements. Romantic prose refers to the prose written in romantic period. The first characteristics of romantic prose is departure from reason. As the romantic age is a reaction to the age of prose and reason, the prose writers of the period got deviated from the reason, logic, and science, which were the key elements of the earlier writers. In romantic prose, we see the emphasis on emotions, imagination, and elements of humanity. Dear students, we have already discussed about this in romantic poetry also. Romantic poets also rejected reason, logic, and science. At the same time, romantic prose writers also denied the elements of reason, logic, and science in their writings. Focus on nature. Like the romantic poets, prose writers of this period focused on connecting with the natural world. Thus, they tried to escape from troubles of world and quest for the peace of mind in nature. Elements of supernaturalism. In order to get separated from the age of enlightenment and from logic and reason, the prose writers of this period turned towards supernatural elements in their writings. A lot of works like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre contain elements that require the reader to suspend his disbelief to accept what they are reading and go along with something that will defy logic and reason. So, like the romantic poets, here romantic prose writers also gave prime importance to the usage of elements of supernaturalism in their writings. The fourth important feature of romantic prose is transcendentalism. Transcendentalism was a movement against the 18th century rationalism. Many prose writers of the Romantic period were influenced by this movement. The movement was based on a fundamental belief in the unity of world and God. Soul was thought to be the world, thus, individual soul was identified with God. Focus on individual. The prose works of this period talked about rights and freedom of an individual and their ability to exert their will even against which might necessarily be logical. A lot of these novels have themes of rebellion in the face of oppression. Characters do things that might seem irrational because it is really what they want to do. Humanitarianism. Like romantic poets, the essayists and novelists of the age too showed keen interest in the common man. The essays of the Romantic period showed great concern and feelings of humanitarianism in their essayists showed great concern and feelings of humanitarianism in their writings. The next characteristic of romantic prose is interest in fast, primitive, and medieval. The neoclassical writers created their works on the basis of reason and morality. The romantic writers, contrary to them, drew their inspiration from the past and justified their statements by experiences of primitive and medieval ages. The prose of romantic period also had the ideas of revolution, and there were some melancholic elements in their writings. This is all about the characteristics of romantic prose. For further information, you can refer the two books. One is History of English Literature by David Duchess, and another one is History of English Literature by Edward Albert. Thank you. Thank you all.